So moving on to the next question, here's one that I think is really important, especially with people starting out. The role of the attorney versus that of an agent versus that of a manager. Can you touch on that?
Okay, well, in the ideal world, that is your team. You're going to have different players on your team. You're going to have a manager, and the manager's role is pretty much to manage the day-to-day type of activities. You know, if a studio needs something from your client, the manager's client, then the manager kind of acts as a facilitator to get them what they need. So they're kind of day-to-day maintaining all the things that are maintaining the contract. Maybe like there may be a deliverable that hasn't been delivered yet, so the manager will be the person who will make that happen. Your agent is actually the person going out to get you work or get your project work. So their job is to get you work that's going to make you money, basically. So maybe if it's a project or if it's an artist, maybe it's the agent's trying to get them in commercials, get them into film. If it's a project, maybe the agent's trying to package your project with something else, maybe doing some cross-branding or product placement. But basically the agent is trying to get you work or get your project to start making money. And then the attorney is, like I said before, they're the protector. They're the ones that are going to structure the deal and make sure that you're protected, as the deal goes forward. So they want to make sure you're protected in the present when you first get the deal, and they want to make sure you're protected in the future in case something goes bad.
Okay. Now, I know we're going to touch on this a little bit later on, but there's this when you go to different networking events and conferences, and you're really trying to break in, you will oftentimes hear people ask, well, how can I get my project to you? They'll ask panelists, how can I get you to read my script? And when you go to these different, production company websites, mine included, they don't accept submissions. And they'll sometimes have a disclaimer, or the answer will be, you need to send a submission through an agent or an attorney. So how do filmmakers, screenwriters, people who are coming in from the outside, how do they navigate that process? And I'll just preface that by saying that, for an example, you see writers a lot of times, and I'll talk to a writer, and I'll say, well, what have you done with this screenplay? Has it been shot? And they'll tell me that they sent it to basically every agency in town. And I've seen actually books and tutorials and whatnot advising people to do this, and it seems like it's really like a very fruitless, futile. It's like playing the lottery.
Yeah.
So can you speak to that in terms of the gatekeepers?
Okay. Well, yeah, it's a complex structure because everyone thinks that you just go to an agent, but it's hard to get to unless your project really has traction already. It's kind of hard for an agent to take on a project and take it to one of the studios, because the first thing the studio is going to say is, what are the numbers? Like what are the YouTube views? What are what target market is following them on Twitter? What target market is this project going to bring to me? So if those questions can't be answered and you don't have significant numbers, then an agent can't take on a project. So you kind of have this whole sub-industry of people who aren't agents, but they kind of have relationships with agencies, and there are tons of those people, but unfortunately you have to really weed those people out to make sure they're legitimate. It's not really a straightforward game, because you never know who's legitimate once you start dealing with people who don't have licenses as agencies. So, what the advice I always give is this: you've got to try multiple options. You can't just think that you're just going to submit your work to CAA and it's automatically going to get picked up one day. You just have to put as many options out there as possible, and hope something takes. So it gets frustrating, but if you expect to fail 80% of the time, then at least you won't be so frustrated, because hopefully something will happen with one of those other 20% that you put out there.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that when you're navigating that that system that can be so frustrating, you often hear, there's those catch-22s. Would you say that having a manager can help bridge that gap? Would you say that attorneys also are playing the role of facilitators in getting through to those, to getting an agent or getting through to a gatekeeper, so to speak?
Yeah, I do think, but again, you have attorneys and managers on different levels. There are some that kind of cross over. Like, some attorneys do some managing, some managers are attorneys, some. Well, you can't be an agent and a manager, but some attorneys kind of hang out with agents and are very close. So it can in some instances, but just at the end of the day, when you're taking your project, it's really about the strength of your project. So I mean, if you have a really strong project with really strong numbers, you're gonna be able to walk your project in a little easier than if you just have a great idea. So I mean, you just need to basically look at every individual you're dealing with and make sure that they've done something in the past that's gonna actually be kind of what you want your result to be in the future.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent advice. Okay, that's great. That's a good primer on the differences between the attorney, agent, and manager relationships.